Probably the last astrocartography video for a while based in the US. Kind of I don't think emotional is the right word, but a nostalgic moment being back in Texas before heading off to Dubai, visiting my Saturn line. Yeah, might be one of the more extensive videos on this because I have a lot to say. And before we get started, as always, quick plug for Swan Bitcoin, the easiest place to buy Bitcoin on a repeating basis. I dollar cost average into Bitcoin every month using Swan, as well as buying on dips and when I fucking feel like it. So it's not sponsored, but if you do want to use my ref link down below, I get a small commission. So feel free, you get $10 of free Bitcoin upon your first purchase. I couldn't decide whether I wanted to film with the chair background and like the sunset light here or whether I want to be completely front lit. So I'm going to switch midway through because, you know, fuck it, might as well do both. So to understand Saturn and astrocartography, which I have a full beginner's intro video on astrocartography, and I also have several videos on Jupiter, Moon, I don't know if I have any other lines, Pluto line. I should talk about my Sun line because I visited Bali before and I have shit to say about that. But this is Saturn line, and to understand it, we need to understand Saturn first. And Saturn is a planet of restriction, challenge, old age, maturity, improvement over time. It's very much like Scrooge or curmudgeon energy, where it is challenging, it's a bit dry, sarcastic, but it's different than Mars. Mars and Saturn are the challenging planets, and Mars, as someone born during the day, is more challenging for me because Saturn is more challenging for people born at night. I have a day chart, meaning that I was born at 5:27 p.m. The sun was still out, as you can see in Texas at this time of day, like 6:15 p.m. Sun is still out basically until, 8 p.m. So born during the summer, August, so I'm a day chart. And Saturn, therefore, is not the most challenging planet in my chart. Saturn in a night chart often deals with really, really outstanding chronic issues, depending on the severity of Saturn's placement. But in a day chart, it's often a what doesn't kill you makes you stronger kind of dynamic, where, yeah, early on might have been a struggle, but it's not, like inherently the most challenging thing. And Saturn in my chart is my ascendant ruler. I'm a Capricorn rising, so Saturn is ruling my first house of self and my second house of income, and I am very Saturnian. If there's any planet I identify with, it is 100% Saturn. I am dry, I am tentative, I am, I don't think politically conservative is the right word, but like lifestyle-wise conservative in the sense that I grew up not liking merry-go-rounds. I was always the kid that was asleep first thing at the sleepover. I'm very like the Saturnian conservative cautious kind of thing. And I very much resonate with that archetype. It is retrograde in my chart, and retrograde Saturn often means that you internalize Saturnian qualities early on because you needed to get your shit together quickly. And retrograde Saturns often do mean that there was like a lack of structure in your early life to where you were the one that stepped up to do that. Alcoholic, abusive mother, I was like my own parent, I was fucking her parent a lot of the time. So definitely retrograde Saturn makes sense. And side note, people born with a retrograde Saturn, because Saturn stationed direct a few days to weeks to months after you were born, you had your first Saturn return before the age of 1, often before the age of like 6 months. So your second Saturn return is technically when you're 28 to 30, meaning that it's often easier than your childhood. So that's a fun fact. Like if you're like me and you had your Saturn return, I believe it was 5-6 weeks after I was born, I like had my first Saturn return when I was fucking straight out the womb. So for me, I resonate a lot with it. And it's in my 5th house, which is creativity, sex, children, like fertile things in life. And it's gnarly in my chart. Like it is squaring Uranus and Neptune. It is squaring Mercury, Mars, especially Saturn, who's texting me. My friend Sarah, my best friend Sarah, lifelong best friend, is on her way. She's also a bit Saturnian, but I don't think she is. She's a Taurus sun, Libra moon, Leo rising, so like a bit more carefree than me. But yeah, and she's late. I would not have been late, but it's fine. I'm in no rush. I get to film. Saturn in my chart is also square Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Leo. There's a really tight Mars-Saturn square in my chart, and it's also right on my IC within 2 degrees, which means that it's opposite my MC and Chiron conjunction. It's definitely the biggest player in my chart, so Saturn line for me holds like a lot of weight. I can now see that not everywhere in the world is as grave as growing up on a Saturn line. And it's, the 5th house being fun things in life, including like sex, children, like these carefree things. or like romantic relationships in general, like I am the most like I'm not interested in children, like to the degree of like I just, it's not the kind of thing where people are like, oh, you'll have kids, like you'll do that, and it's like no one who knows me or like grew up with me, like I'm like physically like repulsed by like the idea of like children. PDA repulses me. Like I have good friends that like date and like they know that I don't like to see that. I don't like those things. I've had very little kinds of romantic relationship of any kind in my life. Literally like have not had anything near a boyfriend or like someone I talked to since like high school basically. So Saturn retrograde in the 5th house, Saturn says no. And I can see like 5th house things, like part of my life is being like ascetic, like very like monk-like, where I don't divulge in those things. I don't gamble, like even my trades are very, very calculated. And I feel like my life direction towards the 5th house of creative matters, like content creation is about, I'm rambling in this video, Jesus Christ, sorry, I've been like working all day, so kind of have less to say. My life is like, content is a battlefield, like creation is a battlefield. Like I'm not a starving artist that gets a fucking download from consciousness. I am a like sit your fucking ass down and create content kind of a person. And my experience growing up on this line, because I was born and raised in Houston, and the Saturn line goes most clearly through Austin actually. So Austin is a bit west of Houston. So the Saturn line goes right through Austin and through West Houston, and I can like see how that manifests because I visited West Houston. Like it's that's like the memorial area basically. If you know, you know. This was like my childhood was so tiring. Like I was so tired. I can now see, because as soon as I started traveling, as soon as I started like visiting Europe, studying abroad in Spain as a teenager, I like literally like there's a tiredness to Saturn. There's a slowness and an exhaustion that is like, I was so old, so young. I just felt so old. Like my experience was very beige. I would describe life in Houston was very beige. And even more so when I would visit summer camps in Austin as a kid, because most of the summer camps in Texas are like close and outside of Austin, like within like an hour of Austin. So the Saturn line experience was very monk-like in a way. I went to a camp called Camp Longhorn growing up. You can fucking look it up if you like really wanna look at Camp Longhorn. Like I'm even like, though when I'm talking about this, I'm having the most strange vivid flashbacks of being so alone but so peaceful, because at these like camps or my childhood ranch trips, because depending on who my mom was married to or seeing, there were different ranches in my life at different times. The biggest one was my stepdad's family's. I don't know, it was like a beautiful, beautiful ranch, big like property, like I don't know, 1,000 acres, that maybe more, big like homes. And I felt very alone, very old, and very isolated. Like at Camp Longhorn, I used to love the alone time in nature, like getting to do whatever I wanted. I really loved, in a sadder way, I really loved the shooting ranges. I was a pretty good shot and archer, like that was my thing. My thing was not jumping on the blob or doing any of the slides. I do not like, still to this day, I wouldn't go I would die jumping on a blob. Oh, like that's terrifying. I never got over that. I do not like the feeling of my stomach being adjusted when you like fall and no. But I loved the alone time, like the quiet time when I would get a care package and just like chill in my cabin with like no AC on a mattress this thin on like a little iron like bunk bed, always top bunk. Like I just love that. Like I don't know if that was ever a time where there was more peace than that in my life, just like sitting there reading the letters that like my sister would send me, and like the fucking like candy and the gum that would get taken that she would try to sneak in. And I really enjoyed the religious experiences, even though I grew up very, very, very critical of institutionalized, like the church. Like I can't take that shit seriously. I really love the like, I don't know, the things around collective consciousness. Like Church Mountain was something at Camp Longhorn where like you go up on a church and you like sing and like just sit there and hear people talk, and like I love that shit. Like I like seeing people like calm and mature, and I find that very like spiritual aligning. So I admire to this day a lot of church architecture practices, just not the ideology when it's corrupted. Any religion I think can have power corrupted. That's why I prefer like spirituality in general. But I did really like those religious experiences, which are so Saturn, because Saturn is like dedication and seriousness. And as I get older, I do really appreciate what Texas is turning into, because it's attracting a lot of people that don't want to put up with bullshit that's going on in cities if they can get out, because some people just can't get out of those cities, and people that can often come to like Austin is attracting a really cool crowd right now. I'm in Austin, not Houston. There was a really reason for me to be in Houston because my dad is like traveling in Paris right now, so I wouldn't be able to visit him. So I'm in Austin visiting some like best friends and things like that. But as I get older, like I really actually appreciate what Texas is turning into. It's not the kind of thing where it's like, oh, you were right, I am actually glad I'm from Texas. Like no, Texas now is like really different. I mean, Tesla's here, like tech is coming here. So it's not like it was when the pace was like disgustingly slow, even in Houston, because traffic and shit, but also like it's attracting like a lot of innovation. Like Lex Friedman, Joe Rogan's here. That's cool. And if I wasn't moving to Dubai, I think I would consider going here or Miami. In a weird way, Austin is cleaner than Miami, but Miami is like cool. Austin's cool though. Like I'll talk about that at the end when I talk about my recommendations. But I think visiting a Saturn line as someone with a day chart, you mature into it and really respect it. Like I could see myself living here. I work very well here because I just feel very grounded. Like I actually like enjoyed this trip a lot. I don't like, obviously, like with Texas, like whenever I say now I'm in Texas, like people try to like make me feel bad and be like, abortion bill. It's like, yeah, I fucking disagree. I'm not talking about the legislators. I'm talking about the people and the environment. And like people are so kind here where like I forget, like if you're in New York and you're getting a coffee, they'll be like, how are you today? And you forget that that's a question and you just say cold brew, please. Here, I'll say that and they'll be like, oh no, how are you today? And I'm like, right, like people care, like they want to hear. And even in New York, as like with LA, there's a huge homeless population issue. And I noticed that even the very few homeless people I've seen here in downtown Austin, I'd say that there can be a violence problem in New York. I understand there's a lot more energy. I'm not here to discuss homelessness. I'm not someone that has a well-informed opinion on that. Honestly, you could ask me anything, I don't have a well-informed opinion. But I noticed that even the people that are without homes, there's just like, there's not that like this violence or this mania sometimes that you see in New York, or maybe I just haven't seen that, but it was like that in Houston as well, just a bit calmer with the people that are disadvantaged out in public. And I feel very peaceful, isolated here. And like I could live here if I needed to. It's very different than when I grew up here. And I think that Saturn maturity, and that is Texas is self-evolving, and also the fact that my Saturn line runs right through Austin, it runs a little bit tangential to Houston, so it's less like deliberate. But with Saturn lines, if you were born at night, I would say that Saturn lines are going to be more harmful, like verbatim, because you're going to run into more chronic issues. I do want to visit a Mars line one day. I've never visited one besides Washington, D.C., which I did find very aggravating, not in fault of Washington, but more so because I was with my dad as a kid several times, and he likes to go to museums and like dawdle, and I'm like, stop, like I don't give a shit about museums. That's why I'm moving to Dubai. I don't care about artifacts. I want to like sit and work. I get no dopamine out of seeing things. So I didn't really like that. But with Saturn, as someone with a day chart and someone ruled like by Saturn, I actually like enjoyed visiting and it just felt very calm. So given that Austin is like busy in the same way that New York is, I like it. And I would say I have a poorly placed Saturn, but the challenges that I run into here are the same things that my Saturn represents, which is like working too hard, not letting yourself have anything. Like I've just been grinding since being here. And like even with content, my friend, I've been like, I don't know, shooting a lot and things like that. But yeah, I think that my experience with Saturn as someone with a day chart, like ruled by Saturn, is that I resonate a lot. Not my chart ruled by Saturn, my ascendant is ruled by Saturn. There's a difference. I don't recommend saying chart ruler if you mean ascendant ruler. It would be different for someone born at night, definitely, but I feel very calm. And yeah, now I'll talk about kind of my experience doing things and switch lighting, because I can see, I don't know if this turned out well, and I'm sorry if this looks like shit. Okay, this lighting is so much better. Do I just need to refilm the entire video? This is disgusting that I didn't do anything with this lighting until now. But it's really cute too how they, like this hotel, the Line Hotel, it's a great hotel. Like I highly recommend the Line. Where do I sit? We're just gonna do this. But basically they have like Palo Santo here, but there's no match, so I don't know how to light it. So I wish I smoked weed, because then I'd have a match maybe, or a lighter. Well, that's what you use for these. But in Austin, like first of all, my favorite restaurant in Austin that I didn't realize I'd been to before until I visited last night with my friend, and I've been there a few times, is the Elizabeth Street Cafe. It's a Vietnamese like place, and they have amazing vegan pho. The soup, spelled P-H-O. I get the one with cauliflower and bok choy, like add tofu. The tofu vegetable rolls are also really good, so I highly recommend Elizabeth Street Cafe. I loved Thai Fresh, but apparently that's not open right now. I have growing up, like as a teenager in high school, I've been to, you know, the 6-3 bars. If you're in that stage of your life, it's fun. I don't really recommend go. It's funny because with Saturn, like it's aging, and I definitely have aged, I guess, anywhere that you grew up. But in a way, like I just feel like I've, you know, aged. I went to 2 acai places here. I went to Blenders and Bowls, which was a bit of a letdown. Not a huge way. The base was really good. I got a pitaya base, and it was definitely like mango-y and banana-y, and it was good. But they had barely any toppings and a very small size. I did order a small, but the large was like huge. It was either small was decent size and large was huge. So I got the decent size and it was filled halfway. Sun Life Organics, best. Sun Life Organics Brazilian bowl. I added peanut butter. Incredible. Great blend. Great atmosphere. The place is filled with crystals, and you can tell they're from like California, like a beautiful place. Great area of Austin. Highly recommend Sun Life Organics, like to a fucking T. I went to an Indian place and I forgot to like film it the first night I got in here. I went to Nasha. It was really good. I recommend the Millionaire curry. It's like a slumdog curry. I don't know what that means, but it was really good. I got it with tofu and vegetables, and that was good. Tonight I'm going to the Peacock, which is a restaurant at a hotel nearby, but I'm staying at the Line Hotel, and I just fucking randomly picked it because I was supposed to stay with my friend. Her like flight was delayed so late on the first night to where I was like, fuck it, with American Express, I get decent hotels at pretty good rates. This is like an awesome hotel. Like the Line, it's actually literally just fucking randomly pulled it up, didn't even look barely at it. Got here and it's like one of the cool, like everyone was like, oh yeah, you're staying at the Line, like that's cool. So there's a cool rooftop bar called P6. I should probably go up there and like take a video, but I don't know if I'll feel like it, so like feel free to look up P6. It's a cool rooftop bar, or maybe I'll go up there and film it and we'll see. So P6 is cool. I will be going to the Bowie Hotel tonight to hang with some crypto friends, and then we're gonna go to dinner at the Peacock around here in downtown Austin. But I highly recommend staying at the Line. Like top tier. I forget how good service is in Texas. Like, again, people are so nice. And I was talking about this on Twitter, but there's a striking amount of similarities between Texas and Dubai. I know that there's some crossover with the similar, like, I know some families literally that like are set up in both Houston and Dubai because of the oil crossover, but the bigness, like the land, because like Dubai's fucking spread out. You forget how literally big Dubai is with like 12-lane highways, and the size of buildings like makes it much larger than Manhattan as like a span, which is, you forget that. But like there's the gaudiness, like I forget how many nice cars you see in nice areas of like Texas or Austin. Like there's an accumulation of extraness that I forget that is like, give me my cars and my land and leave me the fuck alone. And like that's kind of badass. Like I think that's kind of badass. It's in a different manifesting way in Dubai and in Texas, but like big flashy shit. And with my Saturn line here and Saturn ruling my second house of income and my first house of self, like I really do want to own Texas real estate one day. I've said that even like I don't necessarily want to live here like ever, like long term or anything, but like I do want to own Texas real estate. And like Texas land is based, like owning self-sustaining land, even though I prefer to live in cities, like that is really cool to say that you have like land and you built on it. So I would love a lair ranch to like hide out and have as my, maybe when Dubai is hot as hell, like I go here, which is hot as hell, but different hot as hell that's doable. Dubai doable is like you're only inside. I don't want to own like a Houston carbon copy house. No, I want land like outside of, like that'd be really cool. I don't know. And with like I put my Jeep there, that'd be badass. So I've thought about that for like years. I think it would be a really awesome thing. So one day when I, I'm globetrotting and I reach that and can do it. But yeah, I definitely want to like own land, have a self-sustaining little vegan farm, badassery, be cool. And working out here was like memories because soul cycles in Texas are like normal. They're not like New York where it's either masked or you're showing like vax passports and things. So it's nice to like see like the good old times. That's, I guess that's Saturn, like you're like the good old times. But in summary, if you're a day chart, Saturn line shouldn't be like that bad unless your Saturn isn't. I mean, my Saturn is in really poor condition, but it's really my first house of self, so it's just like me being in poor condition and I resonate with it, I guess. But I like Austin. I recommend it as a city. I think that if you're fleeing New York, LA, you should really consider it, like highly. I think that it's cleaner than Miami, like as a city. But if you're not leaving your apartment, then Miami's probably cooler. So if I was in the U.S., I would decide between both. But Saturn, if you're born during the day, not going to be too bad probably, unless your Saturn is like gnarly. If you're at night, I'd watch out, especially if your Saturn is gnarly. Yeah, so I guess we'll see what my next astrocartography place is. I have a couple lines I have not done yet. I know my Sun North Node line, it runs through Bali, and I can talk about that, but it also runs straight through Athens, and that just makes fucking sense. So like I kind of want to visit Greece maybe for the holidays. I know my South Node goes through Poland, and that's kind of eerie given I'm getting a Polish citizenship. I'm not living there, but I'm getting a passport through there through descent, and it's kind of eerie. So yeah, let me know if there's any places you want me to look at if I have any lines there. I have a Uranus line straight through Paris and Barcelona. I don't like Paris. I do like Barcelona, but I don't know if I don't know if Spain is weird right now with regulation or whatever. We'll see. I think the EU's banning Americans. But if I have an EU passport by then, maybe I'll visit. So yeah, sorry, rambly video. I'm gonna go. Peace.